Mr. Speaker, it's increasingly problematic when the opposition side believes that, at the end of the day, people's personal beliefs and parents' religious beliefs is something that they can enforce upon on children and make their decisions, which involves not only their health but involves life and death to begin with, right? Because at the end of the day, this simple preventative measure is something that can save not only their lives but the whole community, can make the whole community safer to begin with, right? The opposition side came up and talked about five things, right? He came up and talked about that, at the end of the day, people's religious beliefs are something which are absolute and cannot be harmed, right? We give you a picture, we give you a bigger picture where lives absolutely have to be saved and absolutely the community cannot be put into any sort of danger. But furthermore, he came up and talked about that, these religious beliefs are something that these parents absolutely must exercise. We tell you that this is not true because the ultimate person who will be suffering because of these decisions based upon religion are these children to begin with, and these children never get to choose the religion, never get to choose what kind of lifestyle they want to live, right? Their parents tell them that, son, you're going to be a vegetarian, and which is why you're never going to be able to take these vaccinations to begin with. This is problematic because the child is not provided with the avenue to make a choice to begin with, right? However, when the doctor comes up and realizes that this kid absolutely needs vaccinations for measles and this kid absolutely needs to be safe, the doctor is the best person to make the rational call. And why is that so? Because parents, at the very first place, who are the types of parents who do not let their children get vaccinated? These are people who do not have a lot of knowledge, because when it comes to medical issues, there is asymmetrical flow of information, which is that doctors have all the information and patients do not have that amount of information, and they do not know that what are the effects of certain drugs are. So the very moment these people are allowed to take a decision, they're not making a rational decision to begin with. These are decisions based upon reports in 1991 that said that, vaccinations can cause autism, or these vaccinations can cause other problems, or there are parents that believe that, it's against their religious beliefs. We tell you that this is something that needs to be foregone because of the betterment of the society and because of the good, because of the greater good of the society. But furthermore, is religious freedom something that puts a third party in harm to begin with? Because these diseases are contagious diseases, right? These diseases are just not going to be contained under a boundary, right? These are diseases that this child will pass on to another child. So at the end of the day, there is third party harm to begin with, and we tell you that these religious beliefs or personal beliefs should not propagate any sort of third party harm, right? And so this is something that we propose. But furthermore, he comes up on a third layer that, these doctors will take bribes and whatnot, right? We tell you that this is extremely stupid, right? Because at the end of the day, if a doctor takes bribes, he realizes that, he's going to be ultimately be caught by the law and the jurisdictions, and his license, years of practices is going to be a total farce, right? He's never going to be able to practice medicine again. He's going to go to jail and he's never going to have the perfect life again. And we tell you that FDA is something which is state approved to begin with, right? So bribing that is something which is something extremely unrealistic. So we tell you that this is something that does not stand by the opposition side. But furthermore, they came up and talked about that, they can have alternative measures, something that we looked for throughout their speeches, and we hope for a better alternative measure, right? They came up and talked about that, they can teach their children alternate lifestyles, a healthier way of living, so that at the end of the day, they do not get measles from someone else, or they do not get any STDs from someone else. We tell you that the measures that they will take are not approved by anyone to begin with. These are not practices which have previously worked. And on the other hand, on the contrary, we are providing you with vaccines that have worked on thousands of people, which have created a measles-free society for so long. And we tell you that at the end of the day, we have a better option to begin with, and these parents who have never studied medicine, who have never really have any information, cannot provide an alternative lifestyle for their children. And we tell you that this is extremely silly to begin with, right? So what am I going to talk about from the positive side today, right? First of all, we'll be going to talk about that how at the end of the day, third party harm is something that overrules the religious freedom to begin with. Second of all, we'll be talking about how society is structured and how it absolutely needs to be done. But before that, right, what did Shafkat came up and talked about? Shafkat emphasized that, why we need vaccines and whatnot, right? Something that was completely unrebutted by the opposition side, right? They never came up and talked about that why at the end of the day, a disease which is as scary as contagious disease, which can harm anyone, which can kill kill anyone, something that already happened in the case of Ebola when thousands of people died, and it was such a big risk, something that can be foregone because few people in the society, a large number of people in the society, are either stubborn or stupid or simply have a different sort of lifestyle, right? So at the end of the day, your personal belief has a third party harms, right? Has a third party harm. Rebuttal to that was never found by the opposition side. But furthermore, we came up and talked about that, doctors have a direct oath to protect everyone involved in the society, something that they did not come up and talked about, and something I'll be further analyzing. But before that, let's talk about what happens, in my own argument, if they do not take these vaccines to begin with, right? What happens is that if they do not take these vaccines and they pass on these diseases to anyone else, the tag that part of the society that was responsible for an outbreak of a disease, right? So at the end of the day, they're that part of the society tagged as villains who made sure that they were irresponsible enough, who were blind in their faith so much that they did not care about the entire society. And why is that problematic? Because how is a society structured to begin with? A society is structured in a way that you have a responsibility to make everyone else around you feel safer, right? You do not carry something in your pocket which makes someone else feel unsafe, right? You do not do anything that makes someone else sitting right beside you think twice before coming up and talking to you, or even stay in the same neighborhood with you, because at the end of the day, that person, you're making the other person feel extremely unsafe, right? And as a part of society, you're not supposed to do that, right? And we talk about that why religious freedoms are given to you to begin with, because it adds a net benefit to your life, and it adds a net benefit to the society, because when you're religious, you believe in a particular faith, you follow those law and orders. But the very moment the externalities are overruling the benefits to begin with, which is that at the end of the day, actual human lives are at stake. So this is something that's something you cannot absolutely, which is when you absolutely cannot exercise your religious freedoms. But furthermore, we tell you that doctors are the best deciders, something that has already been proven in this debate, because these people have practiced medicine for so long, and these people realize that their primary responsibility is towards the patient. It's not towards the parents to begin with, because at the end of the day, even if you do consult with the parents, you provide them a range of treatments, but however, at the end of the day, you are the one giving them all the suggestions that this is absolutely what needs to be done, and this is what's going to save your child. So the very moment they vaccinate your child, they make the society a lot safer, something which is aligned with their purpose, with their oath that they want to make the society safer, and they want to make the society healthier, right? So at the end of the day, furthermore, there is another harm. There is the harm to oneself to begin with when you don't take FDA approved and proven drugs to begin with. When they do not take these drugs, it's a harm to that individual as well, when you're completely blind in faith and you harm yourself, which is something the government must prevent, which is something the government must not allow you, because it's harming yourself. So what have we talked about, right? We came up and talked about that, Shafkat came up and talked about why it's necessary to have these drugs, because these parents are irrational. Second of all, we came up and talked about that why at the end of the day, if they do not take these drugs, there is a bigger harm, not only a third party harm, but to harm to oneself. And religious freedom, or your freedom to be a vegan, is something that cannot put any third party into risk, which is why we win this debate.